Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software, and we're going to begin here in just a minute or two. We're very privileged to have the director of Ideate Software product development, Glynis Pattison.
Hey, everyone. Nice to be here. Good afternoon and morning for those of you who are joining us from other time zones. This is our first ever Ideate Software user group online. We've done many in the past in person, but we decided that we couldn't wait to see you all and connect with you. So we appreciate that everybody's brave enough to come online and meet with us today. Hopefully next year we can meet in person again. We are going to, you're currently all in listen only mode, but in a minute we are going to unmute people. Our goal for this event is to make it interactive, and we're going to have some featured speakers, and Richard and I are going to talk a little bit, but we also want to make sure that you can ask your questions throughout. I'm going to go ahead and just walk through our agenda before we get started. This is what we're going to try to cover in the coming hour. And as I said, we do have some featured speakers from the UK that are going to be speaking. We have Steve Deadman from PTE is going to talk towards the top of the hour. And then towards the back half, we have Michael Hartley from Ramboll, who's also going to be sharing a tip about how they both use Ideate Software. And then Richard and I are going to give some information about some of the newer things that we've done in our software, as well as some brand new solutions we have. And we'd love to, again, to have your feedback either by typing in the questions, which you can do in the question panel as shown here. But I'm also going to go ahead and I'm actually going to unmute everybody now. All right, and we still have a number of people joining us, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to begin by just doing a quick poll to find out where you are all sitting today.
Are you here?
So we have invited people from primarily from the UK and EU locations, but we know some of our US customers wanted to join at this early hour for us. So it's great to kind of see where everybody's coming from today. I'll go ahead and close that back. It looks like indeed most of you are hailing from the UK. So welcome and thanks for joining us again. All right, so I'm actually going to see if Steve, Steve, you're
here.
You're online. Are you able to unmute yourself, Steve?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, guys.
So I know, Steve, you graciously gave us a couple of slides here, so you can just tell me when you want me to advance each slide. And if you could just introduce yourself to everybody on the call.
Sure. So my name is Steve Deadman. I'm the head of BIM at Pollard Thomas Edwards Architects here in the UK. I've been with the company for around 3.5 years. But I've been working in this industry for about 20-25 years. I'm sure some people on the call may know me or may not know me. So yeah, that's me. So we've been using Revit and with Ideate for a long time. I've been using the Ideate tools for many years, so I'm a big fan. So yeah, if we put the next slide on.
Sure.
So I just wanted to give a couple of quick tips and tricks. So these are very general, very kind of everyday tasks where we find Ideate tools to be really useful. So the first one is the smart delete. So this is, as what it says there, you check what's actually going to be deleted before you click that button. I've been in this situation a few times where there's a rogue level and you're just about to hit that delete button, but you're not quite sure what's going to happen if you delete it. Obviously, using the smart delete is really useful. So you can see what's going to be deleted before you actually click that delete button. So it's very good when there's rogue levels that kind of appear in the project, so you can check out what's going to be deleted before you actually clicking the delete button. So that's really useful, really valuable one, that one. Next one, please, Glynis. So this is a tip for Ideate Explorer. I mean, I love Ideate Explorer. I mean, I would be really struggling without it, especially because I do a lot of the kind of model checking and auditing a model. So this really does speed up a lot of the tasks that we have to do. So this is just a quick, simple one where using the Ideate query. So this is really, really powerful, this query, and we barely scratched the surface of what it can do. But this is one use we do have for it, and that's to find in-place families. So just by selecting all the objects and then using the filter in the select property, you can go down to type to is in place, and it can bring up in place families in your model, and either identify those, go back to your team and tell them they've got in place families in, or delete them if you're being ruthless. So this is that's just one of the many things it can do, but that's one we do like.
Are you ruthless, Steve? Is that your strategy?
Oh, that'd be telling. It depends.
He's only ruthless when it comes to rogue elements.
Rogue elements, absolutely. Yeah, I don't like rogue elements.
I think of Star Wars, Rogue One.
Yeah, there's plenty of rogues in my work, I tell you. And then the final one, Glynis, please.
Yep.
So this is the one everyone loves. Everyone loves the clone tool. You could get rid of it, all the other Ideate tools, and just leave that one. I think people would be happy. That sounds a bit harsh, but this. So this one, copying a sheet in as a viewport is something that should be native within Revit, but it isn't. So by having this tool available, it just saves so much time. Somebody asked me yesterday, what was that trick you told me about how you copy a sheet? I said, Ideate clone tool, there you go. Oh, that's the one. And they were happy. So that's really useful. And then recently, this was the second point, was this was been it's a fairly recent update, this, isn't it? Where you can ability to create sheets. So I just remembered this the other day and did a little video for the office to show them this one. Mm-hmm. So that's creating the sheets from unplaced views. So that's just it gives you another dimension of managing your sheets and creating sheets and information really quickly. So you can use you can place unplaced views already onto a sheet using another one as a template. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's another easy win. So we like tools. We like those. These ones especially are real favorites within the practice, within the office.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
A lot of these tools, really, I think all three of them that Steve pointed out today are ones that were developed as the result of customer meetings. So all of our best ideas are not our ideas. They are definitely your ideas, and we're just trying to listen really carefully to what you're saying, so that we can turn them into tools. I know that I remember Smart Delete. I remember sitting around a table in person and people talking about that challenge of Smart Delete, of the risk associated with doing something like this. And it's actually interesting. Autodesk, and some of you may know, Autodesk actually made an improvement, I believe, after we developed Smart Delete. Specifically just for levels, they bumped up their notification of what happens, but I'll just let you know we've tested their method against ours, and it doesn't actually show you everything that's going to be deleted. So just be aware that that they've done it for one thing, which is the levels, but it's still not quite complete. So all right, well, thanks again, Steve. And
sorry, Glynis, can I just add one more thing? This is going back to the clone tool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is more of a user request for, and possibly an update to how it works. Mm-hmm. Yes, we like it. It does work, but there is one or two kind of niggly things that need ironing out. I don't know if you've heard this before.
Lay it on.
So if you are, let's give you an example. You've got to create a flat layouts, individual kind of apartment layouts. Mm-hmm. So you've got one apartment, so you've got apartment number one's on the sheet, and then you want to copy the sheet and then put apartment number two onto an additional sheet, but they're in different positions on a plan.
Yes.
And it doesn't quite work exactly
yeah.
Right. Do you understand what I'm trying to meet? So
yeah, and let me explain to you how I think we have the wish list defined.
Okay.
The default behavior for clone is that when you place, when you make the viewport onto the new sheet, it's trying to match the one that was sort of the originating one. So
Yeah.
the goal there would be for an entire floor plan, you know, the first floor would line up with the second floor.
Correct.
In the
Yes.
case of apartment plans, I think the option that you need is to say, essentially don't use the model coordinates to locate the viewport. Instead, just use the bounding box of the viewport. Is that?
Yeah.
Does that sound like what you need?
Yes, something
Okay.
something along those sort of lines. Yes.
Yeah. All right. I will. I'll dig that one up and
Great.
bump it up for you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And just a note, like you said, non-plan views, if they're schedules, elevations, detail views, the way that it does the alignment when you're swapping the viewports is based on the upper left of the crop region.
Okay.
That's non-plan based views, though.
Yes. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I do think we have an option, we have a request separately and somewhat related to let people define which one is the, you know, because we would have to pick one, Steve. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I think I remember you mentioned this at previous events. Yeah. There was plans in place to.
Okay.
Okay. Brilliant.
Great stuff. Thank you. All right.
Thank you again.
So speaking of designing software, this is actually a question that Richard and Sash and I were talking about yesterday, and right before the call we said, you know, we should ask everybody on the call in case anybody has an opinion. We have a long-standing request that we're working on right now, both in BIMlink and in Sheet Manager, which is what the interface we just saw when Steve was talking about clone and creating sheets. We by default, the whole point of Sheet Manager is to help you place unplaced views. And the question of legends and schedules always comes up because people, you know, as you know, legends and schedules and panel schedules, they can be placed multiple times if desired. Legends in particular, that's often done. So the request we have is, can you help us understand whether a schedule or legend has been placed? And so we're going to do that. We've already implemented that in our beta. My question, if anybody has an opinion, you can unmute yourself, is should we just make that the default behavior, is that if it's already placed, just hide it? Or should we secondarily let you show them by default? If anybody has a question, an opinion, you can type it in right now, or you can unmute yourself. But this is in front of us today, so we're going to be making a decision about this in the next couple of days about that behavior. You might need to think about it. That's okay. All right. Well, you can also email us later.
If you want to type in the question or type in your thoughts after the fact, that's fine too. Excellent.
All right, I'm going to move on now. So our next poll is upon us. This is just to make sure that Richard and I are awake because it's morning where we are. I'm going to launch this poll, which relates to our next topic and relates actually to something that Steve had mentioned about auditing. So the question is, how often do you or your company audit your Revit projects? In the previous poll, as I said before, you know, this is the third iteration. We did a user group in Asia and Australia yesterday or 2 days ago. I can't remember what day it is. And then we did one in the US yesterday. And one of the answers to this question on the previous iteration of this poll was, is that really a thing? But I decided that that wasn't funny anymore, so I removed it. But this is just for fun. You know, we'd like to be able to share back. This is a hot topic for a lot of our customers, auditing and how do you do it and when do you do it and who does it. We've done a lot of research into this question as we were developing the warnings component of Ideate Explorer. And it looks like we have most of you have voted. So I'll go ahead and close that and then share that back out. And it looks like the majority of you are doing it more on a as needed basis, but there are some of you who are digging into that on a regular basis, which is, I think, which is great. You know, what we know is that models that have warnings in particular are very susceptible to ongoing problems. So just auditing for warnings is is an important thing a lot of our customers are starting to do more regularly. All right, we'll go ahead, and with that, I'm going to turn over the presentation. Richard, you want to make yourself presenter and talk to us a little bit about, speaking of auditing, talk about StyleManager?
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically adding on to what Glynis was just saying about auditing, for many, many years, our Ideate Explorer has been sort of the tool for auditing Revit projects, for understanding what's in the model. Also, we added, as Glynis just mentioned, our warnings manager. So there's a lot of great tools for auditing your Revit models. But then we've noticed, or, again, getting back to customer requests, right? There were a lot of customer requests that said, hey, I imported a whole series of CAD files from AutoCAD DWG files. And what happened is with Explorer, I was able to quickly remove those CAD files. But now I see that all of a sudden I've got imported object styles, I've got line styles, I've got line patterns that are in my project that I can't get rid of, that I've kind of, for lack of a better word, sort of infected the project, if you will. And not only CAD imports, but things from you may have copied in other, let's say, views from another project, or maybe you brought in some content, some family content that has some information. And all of a sudden, you got this collection of styles that don't match your standards. So about a year ago, we introduced Ideate StyleManager, and the reasoning behind this was to also help you audit and understand your Revit project, because now you have all of these object styles and patterns and line styles, and they don't match your standards. So how can we assess where they're used, as well as, are they even being used? And can I merge, rename, delete, basically control and manage these? So Ideate StyleManager allows you to analyze all of these types of styles, object styles, line styles, patterns, filled regions, materials, material assets, and so forth. And so like in this case, you can see the count, and so that there are families that contain imported content. And I may, again, want to clean that up or merge with an approved style. So the first thing is to even understand where it is. That's the analyze. Then being able to merge to an approved style. So maybe you've got 5 different text fonts, as an example, that all need to be merged into one. That can very easily be done. And then finally, to those items that aren't even being used in the project, they're there, and they're not always available with the purge unused with the sort of default tools within Revit. So this allows you to, again, see where they are, that they're not being used, and then to be able to quickly delete or remove them from my project. So just a couple weeks ago, we made a major update to Ideate StyleManager in November. And what we did is we added, again, based on all of your feedback, 6 new tools to be able to manage these styles. So as you see here, that's highlighted in kind of a yellowish color, we've added filled regions, viewports, text, fonts, dimensions, and arrowheads, in addition to the styles that we were already managing, allowing you to review. So again, 40% more sort of functionality with Ideate StyleManager. And then in addition, we also made a number of other improvements. I think probably the biggest one is performance, being able, when you analyze, to review that information and actually be able to control maybe even which, like for example, with line styles, are you actually searching for line styles within schedules? You can kind of sort of separate that. So if you don't want to search the line styles within schedules, that can be faster because you're only searching sort of a subset. And then I'll talk about some of the user interface tools, but another really big one, I think, is the support for French, Spanish, and Japanese languages. This is our first product that we've really sort of localized, and we're going to be doing more of this with our other solutions as we go forward in languages that Revit supports. So that's really exciting for us that this is our sort of first international version of one of our solutions. So with that, I'd like to give you a very quick spin on Ideate StyleManager. So I'm going to switch over here to Revit. And as probably everyone knows, all of the Ideate software tools are available on the Ideate software ribbon panel, right? So if I go over here and select on Ideate StyleManager, here's our new dialog. And by the way, since before there was only a number of tools, we now allow this to be sort of not minimized, but stretched, so that if the tools are not displayed anymore, now you can sort of scroll back and forth, or you can use this blue arrow to scroll back and forth, which is nice because sometimes the dialog can be a little large. However, what's really nice is that you can work in Revit interactively, meaning you don't have to close the dialog. I can just sort of move it to the second screen if I want, or move it off a little bit and continue to work. So I'm going to show one of the new collections, we're calling it, called text, right? Because all of them work very similar. So in this case, you see there's some red here. And what that means, the color, is that there are duplicates. So this 1/16th aerial and 1/16th aerial for detailing have the same style info over here to the right. And it's giving me a sort of an abbreviated list of the properties. But in fact, what I really love now with all of these tools, you can go to this pencil and you can actually go to the type properties and you can see more information about it, right? So more detailed, what the width is and so forth of the properties. So that holds true for everything. If I go over here to object styles, I can go right to there and go actually to the object styles within the dialog within Revit. So I love that. That's quick, easy access. So the first thing I'm going to do is double click to analyze these two duplicates. And I see right away that this aerial for detailing is not even being used. So it's easy for me to delete this, and I know that I'm not impacting my deliverables, right? There's nothing that would be impacted or affected by that as far as in the drawings. So I can be sure of what I'm doing here. So I'm going to actually do a shift select, and I'm going to analyze all of these because there's only 14 pieces of text here, or text styles, so it's not a huge amount in this particular project. And by the way, I am set up here for Imperial, so I apologize for that. I know most of the UK and Europe, actually most of the rest of the world uses metric. So you'll see that we have a number of different text styles. Another nice tip here, if you're not familiar with it, you can go over to the column and you can select on this, the top of the column here, basically, and sort by the amount of usage or the instances, right? So if I sort again, I can see the top one here. I can go down to this DG notes. And anytime I can go over to a particular element, right, that's in my list, and I can say show, and I can then actually go right to that element and see, where it is. If I bring that off here, you can see actually that it's highlighted down here, this recessed walk-off map. So I can always review that information very easily. Now, in this case, I've got this weird schedule text 1 and schedule text 13, and I've got an unusual text size, which is kind of a strange imperial size to begin with. So what I want to do is I want to take these 5 instances and I want to merge them. And so I'm going to select now the other one, which is schedule. I'm going to search for schedule text 13 and say merge. So now I'm merging those two together, and it's removing that schedule text 1, and it gives me a nice detailed sort of synopsis or summary of what was done. Then the schedule text 13, I'll just double click to again sort of reanalyze and say that now there's 7 total instances. And I'm going to right click and rename it because schedule text 13 doesn't make any sense. I'll just say schedule text, and I could even say for project or something, whatever. It's totally what I want to call it, right? And so now I've got schedule text for project, right? And I've got all of these schedules that have that particular text. So again, with these tools to analyze, merge, and delete, you can really clean up and review all of these styles. And you'll notice on some of them, like for instance, when I go, text, actually a text style contains a font. So what we did is we made fonts available too. And so fonts are a little bit different because the fonts, I can analyze, are they being used in annotation families, in model families, in schedules? And so I can drill down into those if I need to analyze more. And you're going to see here in a second after this is done sort of processing, that there's a little, you'll see that the usage, but there's also a question mark. The question mark means that I haven't fully analyzed the font usage in annotation families, model families, or schedules. And I could go ahead and do that and analyze those more specifically as well. In fact, this one's really nice. What was it, this ARCHD? That came in probably from an AutoCAD, and it's actually saying I don't even have that particular font loaded if font is not installed. So it's giving me the information that the font isn't installed on my machine that was used for that particular style. And then another thing I just wanted to show you, like with line styles, you have the ability, again, to analyze additional things like the line styles and schedules. This is what I was talking about, where you can specify which things you're actually analyzing. So again,
that's great. Thank you, Richard, for that.
Quick spin. Are there any questions?
There are none yet. We would again remind everybody, if you do have questions, you can choose to unmute yourself to ask a question. You can also type your questions in the chat panel. We have coming up next, I think Richard's going to give a quick review of some important changes, some substantial changes we've made to Sticky, and then we're going to have a presentation from Michael Hartley showing a really cool workflow in BIMLink. But before we do our quick review of Sticky, we're going to do one last poll, and the poll is just for us to find out a little bit about what your usage of Sticky, if you have a preference. Richard's going to be talking in a minute just about a feature that we released. I can't remember when we released it, Richard. I guess in May. And we added support for Word and PDF within the Sticky environment in addition to Excel, but we also made it possible for, even when you're using Excel, to represent that information as an image rather than an embedded schedule. And we're just curious to know if anybody on the call has a strong opinion about, a preference, and then we'll talk about the differences and the pros and the cons. I think they both have a good place in your projects. And it looks like almost everybody's had a chance to vote, so I'll go ahead and close that and share that back out. And it looks like we're split. We're split between being unsure. So you're in the right place if you're unsure, because Richard, you're going to go ahead and give us a quick overview. We want to make sure we leave lots of time for Michael's good presentation.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let me see if I can advance this, and it's still showing. Yep, good. Okay, so Ideate Sticky, as you know, for a number of years, we've had the ability to take Excel data and link it into a schedule format, right, within Revit, and being able to update that. So if the Excel data changes, it automatically updates. Well, as Glenn has said, we recently added Word and PDF support as well. And the idea with both Word and PDF, and as Glenn has mentioned, even with Excel, you have the option to choose images. And the advantage here is the fact that the paradigm of the Revit schedule, right? Everyone knows there are some requirements, right, to be able to fit into the columns and the headers and so forth. So what we're doing is, all these years we've been making some sort of tweaks to the Excel data as it comes into the Revit schedule in order to optimize it, but yet still have it be as almost 100% visual fidelity as possible. But we're never able to get that 100%. Because we have to fit into that paradigm of the schedule. Well, now with images, if you do need that 100% visual fidelity, and it could be charts and images and all kinds of other types of sort of data that's represented that wasn't able to be represented as a Revit schedule, now is available with images, which is really nice. And I'll show some examples. So it's just like Sticky's been working in the sense of, if the source document changes, whether it's Excel, Word, or PDF, it's going to automatically or be able to be updated, or you can set it to auto update when you open up the file, and it's going to check to make sure it has the latest and greatest. So let's just do a real quick spin on this. So what I'll do over here is I'll come over real quickly and just create a new sheet. Then I'll come over and just start Sticky. And I'll just show you two different options here. So you'll notice now we have two tabs, the Excel schedules, and then we also have Word, PDF, and Excel images. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll call it the traditional way, right? So I would go over here to create, and I'd specify my samples directory. So under my desktop, I have some samples, and this is all these samples are included with Ideate Sticky. I'm going to just come over here to my panel schedule, and I'm going to say that, you know what, I'd like to have it be the non-BIM panel schedule. And, you know, of course, I can always give it a name, print area, and so forth. And so now we've also included, or we've updated the sort of information that is shown down below as to where this is coming from, what sheets it's on. So if it's on multiple sheets, you're going to see that. If I close that, you know, here's this non-BIM panel schedule. So let's just bring that up here to the upper left. Okay, let's do the exact same thing with Sticky, but I'm going to show you now the image. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go to Word, PDF, and Excel, and I'm going to say Create. And notice here we actually have the ability to choose PDF files or Word files, but I'm going to do the same. I'm actually going to come over to my desktop, and we'll go to our samples. So I'm pulling from the same directory, and we'll come over to that panel schedule. All right, and it's a little bit different. Instead of the drop down, it's now kind of giving me all the worksheet regions right here, which is nice. So they're same, you know, there's that non-BIM panel schedule that I want, and I'm going to select OK. And we're going to close that in a second here. And so now this is the sort of 100% visual fidelity, and you can see that the two are extremely similar, but there is a slight difference just because, you know, we had to fit this into the schedule item. You know, this is a Revit schedule, and this is an image. Now, I'm going to come back over to my directory here, if I can find it. And I should have had that right available to me, but I'm going to go to my desktop, samples, down here, and we're going to go to the panel schedule. So here we are. And so this is its native document, right? And so here is the branch panel, and we're going to come over and we're going to say branch panel for the UK. And we're going to make just a change to this color, and we're going to create a different color fill here. We'll make it, I don't know, I'm kind of in a purple mood today. We'll make it background purple, just to come and make a couple different selections, and then save it. Okay, once I save the information, come back over here. It doesn't immediately change, just as the same way it wouldn't change if you had a Revit file that was linked in, or maybe you had a CAD file that was linked in. But if you come over here to Sticky, the information here is going to say that it's out of date on both of these for schedules, and you see it's out of date. So the way that I would update that is I could actually either select to update, or I could just hit this auto update, and it's going to go out and get the latest and greatest. Same over here, auto update gets the latest and greatest, and it's automatically updating the image. So if you're familiar with Sticky, the way that it worked, it's now working the same way for both images as well as the sort of Excel schedules. One last thing I want to show you, I just want to say create. We're going to come down here to a Word document, and I'll do specifications here. And under the Word document, what I really like is, if it's a multi-page Word document, we had a lot of questions yesterday. So I would like not 1 through 7, I'd like page 1 through 2 and page 4. So you can do like a 1-2, you can do a comma, you can choose the dot per inch, and then you can select OK. And so what it's going to do then is actually build those 3 different stickies, right, as you see here. And then I can actually close this and see that those are all, and they're individual stickies. Like I can move it individually, or I can grab, let's say, grab all of them and say that I want to, hey, grab all of them and move that down, right? And so now I have a combination of, there's Word information, and this was an Excel information, and of course the same holds true when it's for PDF. And so I won't go through belabor that with PDF, but again, it's the same status of being able to update your document. So really great, a lot of good feedback that we've received on being able to have images as well as schedules. And the advantages and disadvantages, again, it depends on, if for schedules, it's nice because you can still, it's a Revit schedule, it's a native element, you can search for text, you can do spell check on those schedules. An image, the advantage is that you can have it in more, it's not just for a sheet, you can actually have it on detail views, plan views, anywhere that you can have images in Revit, you can have that image. So that's an advantage for that. The disadvantage is it is a raster image, so you're not able to search on the text. And it's a little bit larger for the file size. Not by much, but a little bit. So again,
Richard, we did have that as a question, actually. I just want to let everybody know, someone asked, I think it was Steve maybe asked about the implications of the file size. So we don't have time to show that, Richard. I just want to let everybody know that I posted the URL about that, because we do need to actually move on.
I was just going to grab that, but thank you.
Yep. So I think we're going to move on, because I want to make sure we make enough time to cover our next user tip, which we're again so grateful for those who volunteered to speak at our first ever UK online user group. And up next we have Michael Hartley from Ramboll, who's got a really interesting and terribly useful example that he'd like to cover for us. So Michael, I think you can unmute yourself to speak.
Yeah, sure. Hi both. Can you hear me now?
Nice. Yeah, good morning.
Great stuff. Am I going to be able to share my screen at all?
You are, yeah. So if you want to just do a quick intro while this slide is up, and then I'll make you the presenter.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Mike Hartley. I'm a technical BIM manager from Ramboll. I've been working at Ramboll now for nearly 8 years. In Ramboll we've been using Ideate software now for as long as I've been at Ramboll, and probably a bit before that to some extent. But then we've been using the full suite of tools now for just over a year in the company. So yeah, I've been kind of my main, one of my areas is really dealing with Ideate and dealing with the rollout and awareness within the company. So it's a bit of a journey. At the moment, we're kind of we're still implementing it really. Due to the nature, the size of the company of Ramboll, it takes a bit of time to get these tools fully implemented into a company really. So yeah, but it's good. We've noticed a huge difference in using Ideate tools over the past year. We're only going to get more efficient. The more we learn from them, the more we use them.
All right, let me go ahead and make you presenter so you can talk about the Navisworks workflow here. So let me go ahead.
Yeah. Can you see the Excel sheet?
Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant. Okay, great stuff. So yeah, bear with me on this one. This is the first time I've had to present this workflow. It's a pretty new workflow I've just come up with, but thought it'd be worth sharing. So yeah, as Glenn has touched on there, this is just a workflow to automate our void cuts in structural slabs based on MEP pipe positions. So just a summary of the process is in Navisworks we run our clash detection and we do an extraction from Navisworks, which purely all I'm interested in that extraction for this process is the element ID. So that's the same element ID that you get from a Revit model. So with that, I then use BIMlink to do an extraction from the MEP model and an extraction from the structural model. So the extraction from the MEP model is this one here. So what I've pulled out here is you obviously get the element ID as standard. I've pulled out family name, type name, level, and most importantly the two coordinates, the X and Y, and that's the center of the pipe and the diameter of that pipe. So for those that are interested, this is my Navis export. So I've got a bunch of other data that has exported, but I'm purely just interested in this ID here, which matches the ID here. So the extraction I do from the structural model is just to export a generic model schedule. So I've created a void family, just as which is a generic model. So I extract that out from the structure model, and then that's the schedule that I'm going to end up adding the voids to. So this is what the structural export looks like here. So what I've done, I've set up this spreadsheet beforehand to export the data to. So just to kind of briefly explain it, I'll try not to go into too much detail in what I've done in Excel, but this is kind of a template I've set up to start with. The non-colored tabs, if you like, are the extractions that I get. So the two, or the Navis export and the MEP export. The green tabs are where I'm sort of mining for the data, and then the red pink schedule here is the extraction I get from the structural model, but that's also the end spreadsheet where I'm going to input my data to import the voids. So once I've done my exports, I should mention as well that I've used Ideate Automation to, which is great, new tool to automate the extraction of the MEP data. So that was brilliant. So because on this particular job we've used this process on, we've got a number of MEP models, so I can just open up Ideate Automate. I can run it, so it opens up the Revit model in the background. It extracts the .link file that I've already set up, and then it can point that to export to my spreadsheet here that I've predefined. So that's brilliant. That's one automated process. And similarly, I could do the same with the structural one if I wanted, but in this case, I've done that manually because I needed to do something as well with creating new types, which I'll explain in a minute. So yeah, once I've got all that data here, so the first task for me to do is to basically mine for the information. So first of all, I've run a lookup. Again, I'll try not to go into too much detail of how I've used formulas and so on, but I've run a lookup of the element IDs that come from the Navis extraction against the element IDs that come from the MEP Revit model extraction. And what that ends up giving me is a list of all the IDs of all the IDs of the pipes that are clashing. So basically straight away I've managed to take out all the pipes that I'm not interested in that haven't been picked up as a clash. So with that I've got the ID, and then I've also picked up a pipe diameter for that ID. Now one of the requirements for this project was we needed the void to be the size of the pipe plus tolerance. So I've just given myself a field here to input that tolerance, and then I'm just doing some simple addition here to add the tolerance to that pipe diameter. So basically I end up with a list here now, a column of all my pipe diameters with the tolerance added. So I'm then, once I've got all that in place, the first thing I need to do is actually create void types. So that's the other thing I didn't mention, is I've done another BIMlink spreadsheet just to export my types, my generic family types from Revit, which just looks like this. So this is a new bit I've added. I'll talk about that in a second, but this is what I've basically pulled out. So there's a family I already set up, which just had a single type, which is a 160 by 160 void. So I needed to create the new voids based on the pipe diameters that I was getting. So I've used this spreadsheet here to get me that data. Just used a simple pivot table to hunt for the diameters in here. So now I've got a table of all the diameters that exist. And then I'm just using some formulas in Excel here just to give me that data in a format that I need to copy and paste to my my type schedule. So basically I've got this here. I can just copy and paste that data into here. I'll import that into Revit, and that's created all my types for me. I mean, I could have just done that manually maybe, with there only being a few types here, but it's good to run that process anyway, just to see how many different pipe diameters you're getting. I may have got 2030, in which case it would have been a lot more efficient to do it through here. So once I've done that, that's my types created, I can then start creating these specific instances. So I come to my instance schedule here, and again, I won't talk too much about the formulas, but I've done some lookups to basically give me the information in the order that I want, so I can just copy and paste that to my schedule that I'm going to import into the structure model. So I've just organized that like this. The green is just for me that I know this the content that I copy over. So once I've got that, so what I've got here, I've ended up with the family name, which has come from the family and type name, which is read from here now automatically. And then I've just put in a load of information that I wanted in my void family. But crucially, I've now got the coordinates of which is the dead center point of that void family, which matches the center of the pipes. So I can now copy and paste all that data to here, which looks like that. So what I've done here, there is, when I exported my generic model instant schedule, it came in with a bunch of all the voids that already existed. So I just deleted those for now, just to make it a bit cleaner, easier to see. So now you can see if I just add new to here in the ID column, that means it will create a new instance for me. And then there's all other information that I've copied over. And that's it. So it looks a little bit complicated of how I've got the data, but really the process is very simple. And I've just gone that extra step to help me, automate that data. But once you've got that in a template, it's all very nice and easy to use. And once you rerun the clash test, you can just rerun the extraction, import, job done. This has saved so much time. So just to show you, can you see my Revit screen there?
Yeah.
Yep, brilliant, good stuff. So I've just done an import on a few types in here. So just in the style of what I've done earlier. So this is the structural slab model with the one of the MEP models linked in, and I'm just going to, of course, use Explorer to find those for me. It's gone onto my other screen. This is a pretty large project, and doing the example on maybe it would have been best presented on a smaller one to start with.
That's okay. I have a question, Mike.
Yeah.
Real quickly, and I guess I can tell by looking at this now that I'm seeing it, but the pipes and the slabs are in the same file or different files?
They're in different files.
That's what I thought.
So
Thanks.
this is I'm now in the structure model with the MEP model linked in.
Thanks.
Right, cool. So yeah, using Explorer. I mean, I've only done an import of a few of these instances just to speed it up, but when I run this on the main project, it came in with a bunch of types in here, so I can select all of those at once. And this is the family that I've created in here. So as you can see, let's just zoom in on an area here. Yep, great, it's done exactly what I needed to. It's cut exactly where the pipe is. And in this case, this void family that I've set up, it's set by height, so you can change the height of the cut basically. And I've added in like a red line into here. So if you were to just isolate the structure model on its own and look at it in a plan view or whatever, you could see where those voids have been placed easily. And I deliberately wanted a family that didn't cut at all, so that you now need to go in and cut those, because part of the workflow we wanted to do was to engage the engineer then to review these voids, because not all of them might be required to be cut into the slab. So the engineer can now use this to review which ones they want. They can add in data into the family here, and do the workflow and then cut the voids.
That's great. That was going to be my question. I love this workflow, Mike. I think I think I mentioned to you when you brought it up as a tip that this is something that I have been asked about before. I know we have customers who were wanting to do this workflow, and I think there's obviously several challenges which you've highlighted in your workflow, the ability, the relatively new ability for BIM Link to create the new types was something that you added to make it a little bit easier, which I loved. But also the placement of the creation and placement of the generic model elements through BIM Link is also something that's relatively new. I don't know if everybody on the call is aware of that, but we've been asked increasingly to use BIM Link to create new things. So I'm excited to see you do that. And the cutting of the voids was a big question in my mind, like how how you were going to do that on the back end. So it's I'm glad to hear your logic on that one.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that may be something we develop of how to automate the cutting of those voids.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now this worked pretty well for us actually, because we wanted to purposely go through and make sure we've reviewed all of those individually before we go ahead and cut them.
Yeah, I love that answer.
A fairly new feature of Revit, if I remember right, within the last release or couple releases, of the ability to take have the void, whether you specify whether it cuts or not. Am I thinking of something different?
Yeah, I think there is an option to do that actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not something I looked at. But I
you still would have to identify what it is you're cutting, right? Like.
Yeah, to specify the family of what you're. Yeah, so I think is it within the family you're thinking of that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, there's an option within the family to say cut on placement.
Right.
And that wasn't always there or something recent. The void, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right actually. Yeah, that's a good point. I can't remember if does that cut on by face? Is it face based or is it still or does it work similar to the family I've got here? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but I just remember that was something that did come up that was fairly recent.
Brilliant. Yeah, if that's the case, then that would be great if you wanted it to cut automatically on import.
Yeah, we'll have to give that a spin, Richard. All right. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any questions in the panel right now for Mike. Thanks so much, Mike, for sharing. We are going to be asking at the end of the presentation today if anybody wants to volunteer for future presentations, and we're very grateful for those who are willing to share their experiences.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jonathan was asking if he could talk, or maybe he has a question.
Oh, yeah, of course, Jonathan. Please unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Sorry, I work with Michael. I was just going to add one thing. In previous workflows, a lot of people said, well, you can do this with Dynamo and other things as well, in terms of placing these families. But part of a previous workflow that we tested used Dynamo. We had all sorts of issues with coordinate systems in terms of trying to make things work with very large coordinate systems within Dynamo, which it didn't like at all. And so, having the Ideate tools and the ability to do this as cleanly as it does has saved us so much extra time that we were spending just fixing things because we used Dynamo workflow initially. So if you're placing lots of objects using Dynamo now, and you're having to deal with coordinate systems and having to kind of localize things for Dynamo to then have to change them for the project, in reality, you don't have to deal with all of those issues anymore using these tools.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jonathan. I appreciate it. And I think on that note, I just want to add, we've definitely heard from Jonathan and from Mike about, coordinate related issues. We have made some changes to try to support some of these workflows that we're becoming aware of. So hearing from you is so invaluable to us. I know right now we're also working on additional improvements that are coordinate related per some of your requests. So would love to hear from anybody on this call about something that's blocking you like that, to see if we can make improvements or additions to our solutions. All right.
Can I just add very quickly?
Yeah,
sorry. Just I was just going to mention that this is one workflow I wanted to share today, but one of the main things we've actually been doing on this particular project that Jonathan and I have been working on is the main thing we've been using BIM Link for is actually to place clash spheres. So in exactly the same way, we're using coordinates. We get the coordinates from Navisworks, and then we place these clash spheres that users can then, we dump into the models that users can then go and review. and they can tick off once they've actioned the clash, kind of thing.
Do the
So that's
clash
actually
spheres have like notes on them, or is it just a visual
it's like
marker?
just a visual sphere in 3D space, but it has, we've got a load of parameters against it that you can add review comments on, and you can, you know, assign to people. You can tick resolved and it disappears, that kind of stuff.
Nice, that's awesome. I love it. All right, thanks so much. We've got a few minutes left here before the top of the hour, so I just want to see if we can cover a couple more things. I did want to mention, again, we'd love to hear from you, and there's a couple different ways you can let us know. You can always just email us, but we also do have within the product itself, from the help menu, there's an ability for you to request a feature or report a bug, and then also online, you can certainly do that as well. I wanted to just take a few minutes and show you some of the newest solutions that we've developed, and I know that automation was just mentioned by Michael, so I'll just give a quick review of each. This screen is showing a new BIM 360 solution that we've created. It's Ideate Dashboard for BIM 360, and what I'm showing you is in the BIM 360 environment, we can set up, the dashboard is a card, and the card is a KPI, so a key performance indicator. In this case, it is for warnings. And so what I'm showing here is a BIM 360 project that is actually is just a container. It actually has no Revit files or anything in it. The value of setting that up in that way is that you can set up cards that actually point to different BIM 360 projects. So from this dashboard on the home page of this container project, if you will, I can set up cards that are reporting on multiple Revit projects across multiple BIM 360 projects, and get a heads up display of the warnings. And so the example on the left, it's a 2018 Revit project, and it's medical office building, and we see that there are 4 different files, and the red line shown indicates what we've set as the warning threshold, which is, we know, a key indicator of Revit health. And so anything that crosses that line exceeds our threshold and is one that maybe should be looked at more carefully. And then likewise on the right hand side, same thing, it's just a totally different project. So it's a 2019 project, and it's showing the top, it ranks them. So it looks into all the Revit files and then ranks them and then shows you that information. So that the dashboard is something that we released in September, so it's relatively new. It's available to all of our enterprise customers, and you can also separately purchase it if you're interested, and there's more information online about that. The other tool that we have developed and released officially in September is called Ideate Automation, and Mike alluded to this earlier. This is a tool that really is an API interface for our for BIMLink at this point. We can drive programmatically BIMLink to run in the background. And so the way it works is there is a separate small piece of software called the Ideate Automation Queue, where you can define tasks. And so we similar to BIMLink, we have some predefined tasks set up. So you can pick one of those scripts. This one is a very generic BIMLink export script, and then you can define which files, which Revit file or files, set of files that you would like to act on. And then you can control the output that you want and the naming standards and everything. And so the point for this is when you have projects that are very large and time consuming to open, and you're trying to maybe extract over time the same kinds of data for a variety of reasons. So it could be you're doing quantity takeoffs, or you're trying to extract the revision, sheet revision data so you can create a document record, or for the workflows like Mike alluded to. If you're going to repeat those kinds of workflows, this is something that could really save you a lot of time. And this is just an example of the kind of output, one of the kinds of output you could get if you were doing this. So this reflects, I'm using task automation to run BIMLink once a week on a particular BIM 360 file. And what I've told it to do is, open all the Revit files in that BIM 360 project, dump out the health check data for each one, and create each one as a unique Excel file, in a folder that has that, that date. And so this is something that I don't have to remember to do. It's always up there, and it's pushing it up to BIM 360. So there's a lot of different aspects of the automation that you could choose to leverage. And that also is part of our enterprise offering that can be purchased separately as well. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be more than happy to field them, or you can learn a little bit more online. But these are the standard workflows that we're really targeting with automation at this point in time. They're the detailed quantity takeoffs, revisions, COBie data drops, and health checks are the big ones. At this point in time, this is about just dumping out large reams of data to do complex tasks. We continue to improve this, so we'd love to hear if anybody has other sort of automated related things that they'd like to do with any of our software solutions. That's a great opportunity for us to grow the automation solution as well. So thank you all. We are here to answer any questions should you have any. You can, again, unmute yourself, but I wanted to be respectful of your time, and I've gone a little bit over. So thanks, and have a great afternoon for those of you in the UK. And then unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Have a nice day and a nice holiday season.